the draw has taken place. We now know who Iran will be playing in the final round of qualifying for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. For today's edition of Team Melli Talk, we'll be taking a look at each of the teams in Iran's group, and we'll be sharing some interesting facts. You know the deal, and you know what time it is. It's time for Team Melli Talk. His name is Dragan Skocic, and he will be staying as head coach of Team Melli, the national team of Iran. Recently, we had a survey on Instagram. Check it out. The question was, do you want Dragan Skocic to stay as head coach of Iran? 79% said yes, 21% said no. After winning all 4 of those crucial qualifiers in the previous round against Hong Kong, Bahrain, Cambodia, and Iraq, it appears the powers that be of the Iranian Football Federation really like their chances with Dragan Skocic leading the way for Iran in the final round of qualifying. And without further ado, let's take a look at these two groups. Group A, Iran, South Korea, United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Obviously, we'll be focusing on Group A, so let's get right to it. Only 2 previous meetings between Iran and Lebanon in World Cup qualifying. Both of those matches came in the final round of 2014 World Cup qualification. Lebanon scored a huge 1-0 victory over Iran in Beirut, but Iran dominated Lebanon 4-0 at the Azadi Stadium in Tehran. And when it comes to talented players on Lebanon, the player to watch is Hilal El Helwe. Born and raised in Germany, can be very dangerous as a winger and scored 3 goals in the previous round of World Cup qualifying. Now the truth is, Lebanon has some talented players, and they've also gone on a campaign of adding European footballers of Lebanese descent to strengthen their squad. But the bottom line is that I don't see Iran having a lot of trouble with Lebanon, and getting the 3 points in both games is a must. The UAE. Definitely one of the mysterious teams in this group, and only 6 previous meetings between Iran and the United Arab Emirates in World Cup qualifying. Iran, though, with the upper hand, 4 victories, while 2 of those matches ended in a draw. The UAE has plenty of talented players, that's for sure. But the player that stands out a lot to me is Ali Mabhout. This guy always finds the back of the net, and he already scored 11 goals in the previous round of World Cup qualifying. Definitely a player for Iran's defenders to keep an eye on. But aside from Mabhout, the extra danger from the UAE comes from their naturalized players in Caio Canedo and Fabio Lima of Brazil, and also Sebastian Tagliabue of Argentina. Now the UAE is tough. They're going to make you work. But from the standpoint of Team Melli, all that needs to be done is tightening up on defense in order to get positive results against the UAE. I'm guessing a win and a draw. All right, Iraq, once again. But as we know, plenty has already been said about Iran's neighboring rival, especially if you watched my previous videos. But for the final round, I'm hoping to see Iraq and Iran getting the opportunity to host one another. I mean, in Basra, a very good sports atmosphere at that stadium for Iraq, and we all know the atmosphere at the Azadi Stadium would be electric for a showdown between Iran and Iraq. Once again, the player to watch is Mohannad Ali. He had 5 goals in the previous round of qualifying. But just like I said before Iran beat Iraq in the previous round of qualifying, if Iran puts its best players on the pitch, they will be able to keep Mohannad Ali quiet and take care of business against Iraq. The list of tough teams continues in this group, and as we all remember, Syria was that really surprise package of the final round of 2018 World Cup qualifying, and as you remember, both matches for Iran against Syria ended in disappointing draws. First 0-0 in Malaysia, and then 2-2 in Tehran. And in fact, out of 12 meetings in World Cup qualification between Iran and Syria going all the way back to the 1970s, 6 of those matches have ended in draws. Now for the player to watch, not a surprise that it is Omar Al-Soma. 7 goals in the previous round of qualifying. He has a knack for finding the back of the net. Now the truth is, Syria is tough, we know that, it's already been mentioned. But this time around, I have a feeling that Iran should be able to get maximum points in both occasions against Syria. The rivalry between two of Asian football's giants continues. Yes, Iran grouped with South Korea once again. This is the fourth cycle in a row where Iran is grouped with South Korea in the final round of qualifying. This rivalry just gets better and better. And when it comes to memories of matches between these two teams, I can't help but think about the 1-0 win back in October 2012 between Iran and South Korea at the Azadi Stadium, when Iran scored a 1-0 victory while playing with 10 men. What a victory that was. Not a surprise when it comes to the player to watch, and that is Son Heung-min, currently playing for Tottenham in the English Premier League. He's a dangerous winger, he can score, and he can distribute the ball. Basically, he can do everything. And let's not forget, obviously the South Koreans will be in the mood for revenge when they play Iran. But we know that Iran always brings its best performance against South Korea. And the last time South Korea had a lead against Iran in a World Cup qualifier was back in October of 1993. And in fact, Iran is unbeaten in its last 6 qualifiers against South Korea. Clearly, history is on Iran's side. The fact is that there are plenty of tough teams in this group, plenty of competition, but Iran must finish in one of the top 2 spots in this group. That's the bottom line. Now, when it comes to the head coach position, let's not forget that in the previous 2 final rounds of World Cup qualification, Iran definitely had plenty of experience at the head coach with Carlos Queiroz, taking care of business on the sidelines and coming up with those great game plans. But this time, with head coach Dragan Skocic, let's just say that we're really going to find out what he is made of. And when looking back at the previous round of qualifying, there were a decent amount of times when Iran's defense was really suspect. But in order for Dragan Skocic to fix those problems, he's got to replace Hossein Kanani with Mortaza Pourali Ganji at center back, and we need to see Saeed Ezzatollahi and Saman Ghodus starting in midfield in every match. If Dragan Skocic listens to what I say, Iran will qualify to the 2022 World Cup with no drama. What about you? What are your expectations for Iran in the final round of qualifying? Leave a comment down below. Always looking forward to reading your input. And that is it, everybody, for this edition of Team Melli Talk. As always, really do appreciate the support. Make sure you get to our website, www.teammellitalk.com. Remember, this is your best source for the latest news on Team Melli, the national team of Iran. You know where to find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know the handle, @Team Melli Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification button. See you on the next edition of Team Melli Talk.